Hi, I'm Jason Shoultz. Just ahead on America's Heartland. Hope you're ready to spend a little time on the open range. We're going to take you cross country to round up some very special ranching stories. We'll saddle up to bring in the cattle on the historic California ranch of William Randolph Hearst. We'll introduce you to an Alabama woman rancher who's working to improve the environment. You'll meet a fast-talking young man as he vies to grab the title as the world champion cattle auctioneer. And we'll visit an Arkansas ranch raising big buffalo. It's all coming up on America's Heartland.
America's Heartland is made possible by Crop Life America, representing the companies whose modern farming innovations help America's farmers provide nutritious food for communities around the globe. The Fund for Agriculture Education, a fund created by KVIE to support America's Heartland programming. Contributors include the following.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand. In America's heartland, living close to the land.
What most urban residents know about ranching comes from television or movies like City Slickers. Or perhaps you're one of those vacationers who's spent some time on a dude ranch, climbing into the saddle to get those little dogies moving right along. But ranching is a critical component of American agriculture production. As economies have improved around the world, we've seen an increase in the demand for American beef. But American ranchers face some real challenges along with those opportunities. Beef production in the United States is largely a cyclical process. Good years can produce an abundance of food production animals, which drives down prices. Production then slows, and it takes time to reach profitable levels again. And just as it does for farmers, weather can play a significant role. Drought in many states has forced ranchers to buy feed when grasses don't grow. In other states, extreme winter weather can take a heavy toll on cattle numbers. All of this affects the prices we pay. Beef production is a process that demands that ranchers plan far ahead to stay successful. In some cases, it's raising specialized cattle or tailoring your production for certain markets. We're set to take you along to a variety of ranches this time, and let's start with Rob Stewart and a very famous ranch in California.
If the spectacular scenery weren't enough to set this cattle ranch apart, certainly its history would. These sustainable grasslands along the stunning California coast have been home to the Hearst family ranch for some 150 years. It all began in 1865 when George Hearst, a rancher and future California senator, bought 48,000 acres of an old Mexican land grant called Piedra Blanca Rancho. George Hearst would later become better known as the father of media mogul William Randolph Hearst. His land became the foundation of one of the nation's largest suppliers of free-range, grass-fed beef.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
Steve Hearst, William Randolph Hearst's great-grandson, heads up the ranch today, an operation owned by the global Hearst Corporation. It covers a sprawling 128 square miles.
There is so much land here, 82,000 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of it is actually used for cattle grazing?
Well, you can graze about half of the acreage.
These coastal acres provide the food source for the ranch's grass-fed cattle. 1,000 head of mother cows graze on these sustainable grasslands.
We've often said that, we let cows be cows. We give them a lot of room to do it.
Over here we have the ocean, and over here we have such beautiful hills and scenery. Do you ever come up here by yourself?
I have been here by myself a number of times. Never been bored. Grab an ice chest and take a drive.
But travel inland just a few miles and you'll find more of the Hearst farming operation. Jack Ranch in Paso Robles was added to the ranch in 1965. The acres here have greater access to water, a critical element during California's drought years. These flatter grasslands are also irrigated, and the cattle moved from pasture to pasture to enhance the sustainability of the land. But just as they've done for decades, Hearst ranch hands use horses and dogs to tend to the herds. Ben Higgins directs agriculture operations.
Grass-fed production is, by its very nature, more difficult. It takes longer to raise those animals, to get them to that finished weight, and it costs more ultimately for us to produce. And especially in a drought situation, it's exceptionally difficult.
Back at the ranch's original acres, almost 1 million tourists drive through these hills each year to get to Hearst Castle. The spectacular estate was built by William Randolph Hearst in the early 20th century. It was Hearst Country Estate, where the Hollywood elite came to mix and mingle.
W.R. loved the ranch, and he said to his mother, "I'd rather spend a month here than anywhere in the world."
In 1957, the family gave the hilltop estate to the state of California. The ranch itself is closed to the public, but lofty vantage points from the castle give visitors a chance to overlook the sprawling acres of the California grasslands.
As many guests as I've ever seen walk into that building, while they're astounded by the architecture and the fixtures and the furniture and the antiquities, they walk right through the room, right to a window, and look at the view and say, "You've got to be kidding me."
Really?
Because out of every window, the view was specifically planned.
As you might expect, when William Randolph Hearst died in 1951, there were questions about what would happen to the Hearst castle and land.
I think it's so important to tell your story of conservation, because as poignant and special as this land is to you, you gave a lot of it away.
Well, we gave a lot of it away, and we also gave away rights that existed with the property.
In 2005, Steve Hearst negotiated what became the largest California conservation easement project of its time, transferring ownership to the state, yet ensuring that this land will always remain in the Hearst family for agriculture. The agreement limits development of these historic hills and beautiful beaches.
We enlisted the American Land Conservancy. The California Rangeland Trust was always the organization we saw that was going to oversee the entire easement in perpetuity. So we had to fund the endowment to have them come and review our practices twice a year forever.
Those new directions also provided new opportunities. They launched the Hearst Ranch Winery near their Jack Ranch and tapped into new markets for their grass-fed beef. That included a partnership with Whole Food stores in Southern California.
So when you think about all of your family members and ancestors that have gone before you here, I want to take it back to the very beginning. What would Senator Hearst think about what you're doing today?
I think that George and Phoebe and W.R. Would come here today and see it very much as they saw it when they were here. Very little has changed. I think they would very much approve of what we're doing here today, and I think they'd be proud of it.
So now let's go forward.
Okay.
When they're talking about you this way.
Well, there was a sense that I had during the conservation negotiations of a photo of me when they said, "So that's the guy that sold the ranch." And someone said, "No, that's the guy that saved the ranch."
There were once more than cattle roaming the grounds of the Hearst Ranch. In 1923, William Randolph Hearst created a private zoo on the land with elk, buffalo, sheep, zebras, and goats. He closed the zoo in 1937 when he ran into some financial difficulties.
Working a ranch these days demands an understanding of crop conditions, livestock prices, weather challenges, and just good management. It also demands a commitment to practices delivering long-term benefits to consumers and conservation. Our Kristen Simoes says for one Alabama woman, it's those challenges and opportunities that keep her excited about working the land.
Go on, Cal. Go on.
Anyone who knows Annie D will tell you there's nothing this farm woman can't do.
She's a go-getter, and, you know, she'll outwork most men I know.
Annie oversees operations at the Dee River Ranch. Spread across some 10,000 acres, the ranch sits near the Alabama-Mississippi border. The ranch is made up of a half-dozen family members, including Annie's brother Mike and her sons Seth and Jesse. But there's no mistaking who's in the driver's seat here.
She is. She calls all the shots, and we just follow. Well, she does it all. There's not one thing around here that she can't do. She really loves to run the combine. Her passion is riding horses and working cows, and she does that a lot.
Coming back, Will. You got one out there. Whoop.
Annie began her farming career after graduating from college, working on her family's farm in Florida. In 1989, they sold that property and moved Dee River Ranch to its current home in Alabama.
Well, here we have a cattle operation and a row crop operation, and this morning we were working cattle. We were separating the cows from the calves, weaning the herd. And this afternoon I'm going to be combining corn.
Working the land with horses and farm equipment, the family and ranch hands will tend 1,000 head of cattle and rotate a half-dozen crops. The ranch also focuses on keeping the land productive by making environmental improvements.
It's what's feeding us, and it's what's going to feed future generations. And if we don't maintain this land that's growing our crops, it's not going to be, they're not going to be able to raise crops in the future, and there's going to be a lot of hungry people.
Annie and her family have placed some of their land in conservation reserve programs. They've replanted native trees and grasses, and in an effort to conserve water, establish reservoirs to collect winter rains for summer's dry months.
We built a reservoir where I can catch wintertime runoff, and I can pump out of a storm creek, store that water that is everywhere in the wintertime, utilize it during the growing season.
Hoping to educate the public about the work being done by farmers, Dee River has partnered with school districts and universities, bringing students out to the farm to talk about farming techniques, consumer issues, and agricultural technology.
One of our keys is utilizing every acre to its best potential, and we've got to do that because, you know, our input costs are rising just drastically every year. So in order to combat that, I've got to produce more off every acre. And not just this year, I got to be thinking about 10 years down the road.
That long-term view touches every aspect of this ranching operation, protecting the land, meeting consumer demands, and providing the opportunity to continue a family farming tradition.
We just have great faith, and we just know year after year we're going to go do it again. When springtime comes, we plant those seeds and we go again. We just don't ever give up.
Cows came to America with the first settlers from Europe. The bovine arrivals included those in Jamestown, Virginia in the early 1600s. And history books point to domesticated cattle as far back as 5,000 years ago. By the way, there are more than 900 different breeds of cattle in the world.
Ranchers depend on a specialized system to get their cattle from range to market. All across the country, ranchers look to cattle auctioneers to make that connection with buyers. Working the crowd, they set the stage for showing and selling the beef. Speed, style, and skill are critical to get the best price. Those abilities are also critical for auctioneers showing their stuff at the World Championship Cattle Auctioneering Contest.
Welcome
to the World Livestock Auctioneer Championship, where speed, skill, and style are on full display. And for cattle auctioneers, this event,
It's absolutely the Super Bowl. This is my fourth time in the contest.
Oklahoman Bailey Ballou is one of 10 finalists whittled down from a pool of the best 33 auctioneers in the country.
Once I got past the nerves, got into the finals, I felt a lot better. And so I think they really got to see who I am and how I sell today.
They aren't just people who are sitting in the stands of the sale barn. Bailey is trying to impress the judges who decide who brings home top honors.
Voice quality, how they perceive and sell the cattle, and true price discovery for the market and for the producers they're working for.
82 on 55, 82 on 55.
Auctions have been around as long as people have been raising livestock in the United States. Farmers and ranchers bring their cattle to a regional sale barn where they look to get top dollar from buyers. And at the center of it all is the auctioneer.
And that auctioneer being able to drive to the very top dollar, that's crucial to our industry and what these producers get for them, in my mind. That's the money they get to spend for the year, and the only person that determines that is that auctioneer and those buyers sitting in those seats. So it is a very vital part of all these people's livelihoods.
So if the bids for these beauties are looking a little low, time to turn it up a notch. While there are quite a few veterans of sale barns here, a fresh face is also making his debut on the national stage. And he's turning heads. It's the first year 18-year-old Blaine Lotz is eligible to compete, and he's made it to the finals. To find out why this teenager turned up with such talking and timing talent, you have to go to his home state. And the sale barn here in tiny Fredonia, Kansas, where every Tuesday at noon, Blaine is running the show. And in the crowd, one woman keeps a closer eye on him than most of the bidders. Outside the sale barn, meet Blaine's mother, Carla.
Now 11, now 11, 13, now 14, now 15, 16, now 17, now 17, 18, 18, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, sold them $1.20.
My dad was an auctioneer. I went to auctioneering school in Davenport, Iowa, and when I come out, I instantly went to selling hogs at Springfield Stockyards. The last time I sold full-time was the day I went into labor with Blaine. I was going to leave the sale barn and take off a week. I left the sale barn, and an hour later my water broke and I was in labor with him. And his lullaby was the auction chant. He's been blessed with this really good voice. He's very clear, but it's the spirit. He's getting it anyways, and he loves what he does. So that's what I love watching him. Love what he's doing. I mean, how lucky can you be?
Sold on 125, but I'm on 74.
He's the best.
Tell me everything you know.
He's the best.
Better than you?
Yes, yes. He's much better than I am.
All right, so teach me a little bit here. How do we do this?
So dollar bill now 1.
Dollar bill now 1.
Go 2.
Go 2.
Give 3.
Give 3.
How about 4?
How about 4?
Bid 5.
Bid 5.
6 here.
6 here.
Now 7.
Now 7.
Bid 8.
Bid 8.
Give 9.
Give 9.
10.
10.
11.
11.
12.
12.
How about a name in 13?
136
Back in Turlock, California, Blaine's competition is tough. And in the finals, he takes 7th place.
I've watched this competition a lot, and I'm competing against the guys I've been watching for years in this contest. And it's just great to be back in the top 10.
And the winner, Bailey Ballou.
And I don't want to brag on myself in any way, because you look at these other guys and I respect them, and I love the way they work.
33 and 4, 74 and a half. We sold them here. Sold them. Sold them to you, sir.
Auctioneering has a long history. The word itself comes from a Latin phrase meaning to increase or augment. Stockholm, Sweden boasts the oldest auction house in the world. It opened in 1674. And one note on cattle auctions, a single dairy cow named Mist sold for $1.3 million at auction in 1985. Mist was the matriarch of a long line of star milk producers.
We've shared some stories about cattle ranching, but there are other kinds of ranches as well. Sheep naturally come to mind, But did you know that a growing number of American ranchers also raise buffalo? Our Rob Stewart takes us to Arkansas, where his buffalo encounter is a one-of-a-kind ranching experience.
These hills in Marshall, Arkansas are home to Ratchford Farms, a sprawling 500-acre oasis of rolling grassland. And if you take a short drive through these green pastures, you'll find them blanketed with buffalo. Now, we'll be the first to say that an up-close encounter with the largest land animal in North America is not something to try in the wild. But ranch owner L.C. Ratchford felt confident that these animals, his breeding herd, could be approached safely. Right through the gate, the buffalo come running.
Look at that. How fast can they run?
They can outrun a horse. They can go 35 to 40 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh. This is a 3,000-pound male.
This guy can go from a tame, docile animal like you see here to a wild animal with all the wild instincts of self-preservation within a heartbeat.
Okay, well, let's keep it happy with food. There is a massive presence coming from these animals. You can just feel their weight.
Oh, you can. They're very majestic. We as Europeans, as Americans, almost made them become extinct. And to me, that would have been such a waste.
Hi there. Look at those horns. My goodness. Well, they have good breath.
Oh, yes.
I'm not kidding.
The American buffalo, or bison, was nearly hunted to extinction in the 1800s. With some herds ultimately protected in national parks, their numbers grew. In the past 20 years, ranchers have initiated new herds or expanded their existing stock, benefiting from a growing consumer demand for low-fat, grass-fed, and sustainable meat.
When I was just a youngster, I watched a show on PBS. It showed the buffalo. I knew that there was a connection. I knew I had to raise them someday.
Buffalo can live from 20 to 25 years. Each year, about half of these animals will reproduce. Once fully grown, they will be processed for their meat, and LC's is some of the most popular in the area.
So I went from one store almost 12 years ago to we have got well over 700 stores that sell our snack sticks, our jerky, summer sausage, as well as some burgers, some steaks. Just got a call earlier today of a big place in Texas and another one in Tennessee that want to start carrying our stuff.
Look at that view over there.
Oh, it is spectacular.
Ranching has deep roots here at Ratchford Farms. Elsie's great-grandfather raised cattle, and descendants of those original cows still graze this land.
I see your cows are following us.
Oh yes, that's we use very passive means in dealing with our cattle, no different than dealing with the buffalo.
Elsie still raises about 100 cows, but adding buffalo to his farm changed his life forever.
I think that they embody the United States. I think that they embody what we stand for as a country. They're very majestic, they're hardy, they're survivors.
LC has one more place he wants you to see. He says it is his favorite view on earth, the bottom of the valley where his parents once plowed this land with mules.
The ability to come out here to enjoy these things, I consider myself very rich, not necessarily monetarily, but in just the way of life. Some people, I think, have a certain illusion that wealth is money, power. To me, it's just my 500 acres, my herd of buffalo, my family, to be living here in Arkansas. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Some big animals there. Well, we're out of time, but before we go, just a reminder to visit our America's Heartland website. You'll find us at americasheartland.org. We've got video from all of our shows and a lot more. And be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media sites. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time, right here on America's Heartland.
You can purchase a DVD or Blu-ray copy of this program. Here's the cost. To order, just visit us online or call 888-814-3923.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by Crop Life America, representing the companies whose modern farming innovations help America's farmers provide nutritious food for communities around the globe. The Fund for Agriculture Education, a fund created by KVIE to support America's Heartland programming. Contributors include the following: